Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, and thanks for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the chart here, the Arctic coast has a winter storm advisory out for the west side here for tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Looking at winds 30 to 35 miles an hour, snow and blowing snow, reducing visibilities there. And for the eastern stretch of the coastline, same thing, winter weather advisory, that's for snow and blowing snow, but the winds 30 to 50 miles an hour in the forecast over there, and that's going to result in visibilities reduced to a half mile or less at times, and that's out through tomorrow. So moving on, yesterday we had what looked to be a pretty good storm down there southwest of the Queen Charlotte Islands, and weakening front spreading some clouds up across the southeast coast. And then a band of moisture here cutting across the Gulf of Alaska from east to west, right across Kodiak Island and into the Bering Sea. Out to the Pribilof, so they had some light snow, and that angled back down into the central Aleutians. And pretty good here over the Alaska Peninsula, fair over the interior, all the way up to the Arctic coast. And for today, we'll see that area of moisture here is lifted northward and brought some precipitation up to the North Gulf Coast, that low weakening and moving northward, actually making landfall over the Prince of Wales Island area earlier today, weakening into a trough as it moves northward. And rainfall amounts not all that heavy. Annette picked up about a half an inch of rain in the last 24 hours, and then Kodiak in the same 24-hour period also had about a half an inch of rain. Otherwise, back out at St. Paul, a couple inches of snow fell today and 5 inches on the ground now. Otherwise, pretty light amounts everywhere else to nothing up over the interior. And clear skies, or actually this is just high clouds spreading northward into the Tanana Valley, and then some lower clouds up here over the upper Yukon Valley. Looks like maybe back to the west here, but basically mostly clear skies on the north slope, and then you get into the windy conditions and blowing snow along the Arctic coast. And on the chart today, here's that low that's weakened into a trough, and again, most of the precipitation over the southern and southeast coast, and then some of that back to the west here, just clipping Cordova, but up into western Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, and just scattered showers this afternoon over Kodiak Island, pretty isolated. Had some areas of snow over the western Cook Inlet area up to the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, scattered snow showers over Bristol Bay, and then the snow here in and around St. George Island with gusty northerly winds, but just some isolated snow showers there for the Aleutians. And up along the Arctic coast, a lot of reports of blowing snow throughout the day today, again with those winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour on the east side and about 35 on the west side. Otherwise, just a few flurries, not too bad now by comparison there for St. Lawrence Island up through the Bering Strait during a little bit of light snow conditions, but nothing measurable. And the forecast for tonight, that low kind of stays put there, now drifting up to near Kamishak Bay, with still some lingering isolated showers there for Kodiak Island, and then the moisture back up along the Alaska Range. Still looking at some scattered showers possibly there, Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast as trough continuing to weaken, and that'll maybe increase the shower chances over the northern panhandle while things dry out to the south ahead of the next system down there just rainfall approaching the Queen Charlotte Islands. Otherwise, weak trough out through here. That's going to keep light snow and fog, occasional there from the Pribilofs, isolated snow showers for the Fox Islands, probably mostly dry with maybe some clearing here for the Alaska Peninsula and into Bristol Bay. And then another weakening system pushing some moisture into the western Aleutian areas. Really no change up over the interior, maybe a few more clouds and some moisture trying to lift into the area there, but any of the flurries or light snow shower activity will be along and south of the mountains. And then the blowing snow advisories again along the entire Arctic coast. And for Tuesday, now we get the effects of the next front coming up with gale force winds and rain with the gales out along the coast, small craft advisories over the southern inside channels. Still moisture, leftover moisture, keeping snow showers, rain or snow showers, possible from Yakutat back into Prince William Sound, maybe up over the Wrangell Mountains. And then a little more moisture, kind of a more mostly cloudy condition with some scattered light snow showers or flurries there, possibly all the way up into the Koyukuk Valley. But again, amounts won't be significant at all, and most areas won't see anything at all. And that pattern will extend down into Bristol Bay. A few more snow showers over the eastern Aleutians, and still a chance of snow showers there for the Pribilof Islands. And then that weakening trough, bringing some more moisture into the western Aleutians, but that's all kind of sliding off to the southeast. Otherwise, still pretty breezy, but bringing the winds down under gale force there for the Arctic coast, and even lighter back on the west side. Otherwise, no change back here over the northwest into the northern Bering Sea. Still looking at a general downward trend in the winds there from the strait across St. Lawrence Island. And then for Wednesday, another a big storm pushes right into the western Aleutians, bringing gale force winds first to Shimei and Attu, pushing over to the Adak-Atka area. South to north flow should bring enough warmer air in to eventually change the snow over to rain in those areas. High pressure, light winds, partial clearing there for the eastern Bering Sea areas. And not too bad for the Alaska Peninsula. Kind of a mostly cloudy condition with a few isolated flurries or snow showers again anywhere up over the interior, but nothing significant at all. And the Arctic coast, some areas could see clear skies while others will see foggy conditions. Still looking at the gusty east to northeasterly winds across the entire area, but diminishing down from what they've been. This front moving northward and weakening considerably, with the main low center staying back to the south and also beginning to fill. So that'll bring a chance of rain in along the southeast coast during the day and just barely reaching the North Gulf Coast. In fact, just a chance of rain possible for Yakutat and Cordova. A little bit more moisture may slide into western Prince William Sound there for some occasional light rain and fog, and then back down across the southern Kenai Peninsula. Definitely a wet day for Kodiak Island. Otherwise, Bristol Bay, partly to mostly cloudy, isolated flurries. Temperatures along the Panhandle today, all in the 40s again, with 48 at Metlakatla, 46 Sitka, 44 in Juneau. Yakutat up to 50 degrees. They had the state's high today of 51 earlier on. Lower 40s for the North Gulf Coast. Mid to upper 30s for the inland areas. Talkeetna at 30 degrees, contrasting that with 45 down at Homer. 39 in Kodiak with a 34-degree reading reported from Akiak. Lower 30s there from Delta to Northway, upper 20s for Fairbanks, and much chillier over toward Tanana at 16 degrees. About the same in Bettles, 9 above at Fort Yukon, and some clear skies here along the north slope. Sagwan down to minus 20, and that was a cold spot in the state today, even for the low temperature. And right around 0 there for the eastern Arctic coast, minus 6 at Barrow, minus 7 at Point Lay, and single numbers in teens here up over the northwest, 13 at Nome, 17 reported both from Galena and McGrath, also Bethel, and teens to lower 20s out along the coast, right near 0 for St. Lawrence Island. The Pribilofs, lower 30s, mid to upper 30s here for the Aleutians. Bristol Bay, lower to mid 30s. And for tonight, the lows out that way will drop into the 20s along the peninsula, upper 20s, lower 30s for the Aleutians, and below 0 there from St. Lawrence Island eastward across the interior on up to the north, where some lows in that 20 to 25 below range possible for the north slope. And 30s again for the Panhandle, upper 20s to lower to mid 30s there for the southern areas of the state. Highs tomorrow, upper 30s to mid 40s here for south central Alaska, and same thing for, or actually mid to upper 40s for the southeast coast, 30s to near 40 for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula area, upper 20s for the Pribilofs, cool to near 0 again for St. Lawrence Island. And for flying weather, looks like pretty good VFR, actually a band of moisture lifting northward, so it could start out marginal here over the northern southeast coast, and then during the late afternoon, look for the conditions to begin to deteriorate down south there coming up from Dixon Entrance, especially for southern Prince of Wales Island. IFR here for the North Gulf Coast into western Prince William Sound along the western Cook Inlet area there up to the Alaska Range, and also here over portions of the Bering Sea. Marginal for the Pribilofs, again occasional IFR in the forecast, St. Lawrence Island on up through the Bering Strait and the eastern Arctic coast there. Otherwise the remainder of the coast mostly marginal, as well as the North Slope. Good VFR here for much of the interior, once again right on down the east side of the Kenai Peninsula, including the Matanuska, Susitna Valley areas. For Anaktuvuk, VFR tomorrow, same forecast for the Brooks Ranges. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with possible IFR on both eastern entrances. And for Rainy, VFR with marginal VFR in the eastern entrance. And for windy will be VFR, Isabel also VFR, as well as Mentasta. There will be clouds and maybe some flurries, but they should be of the VFR variety. Mentasta, VFR, Tanita, same forecast. Portage, IFR, especially on the east side. Chilkoot and White, again, look for a improving trend with the lowest conditions occurring in the morning, becoming VFR as the day wears on into the afternoon. Freezing levels here showing kind of edging back up north of the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, right up Shelikof Strait, just off the North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, and 2,000 feet up across the southeast coast. And for icing, with the moisture starting to spread in, timing-wise, best chance in the afternoon, 3,000 to 11,000 feet down that way, and then with the leftover moisture here up along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, mostly below 8,000 feet. And for the upper wind flow chart, again, the main strongest jet well to the south here, upper low here in the Gulf of Alaska, kind of ridging out of Canada right into the central interior, keeping it dry there. And the 9,000 foot winds showing southeast 25 to 50 knots over the eastern Gulf of Alaska, diminishing as you get in over the Panhandle. Very light winds here over the interior, just 5 to 10 knots over much of the area. Then along and north of the Arctic coast, that's where you'll find the strongest easterly winds up there in the 25 to 35 knot range. And pretty light northerly winds, just 10 to 15 knots now from the Bering Strait all the way down to the Aleutians and even out to the west. And then 3,000 feet, much the same pattern, a little more northeasterly out here, 10 to 20 for the Bering. 15, maybe 35 knots along the Arctic coast there, with the strongest winds on the east side. Very light east-northeast wind flow here through mainland Alaska, all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. You get off the coast and things increase a little bit, but not too bad. 20 to 25 knots with stronger winds right along the Panhandle. And for turbulence, for the central and eastern Arctic coast, light to isolated moderate chop up in that area. Also through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, maybe grazing the east side of Kodiak Island, otherwise should be mostly smooth all other areas. And then turbulence tending to be on the increase throughout the afternoon there over the southern Panhandle. And after the break, hangar flying, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. If you were with us last time, you saw Doug McInnes. Doug is currently an Alaska Airlines captain, and he was involved in a very serious hunting accident. And he started to describe how he got into the situation, and in fact, it ended with him falling, and I'm going to let him pick it up at that point and continue with the story. Doug?
Thank you, Harry. It's good to be back again. As I mentioned, I took one step after waving to Brian and fell uncontrollably, realizing this time it just felt like I wasn't going to stop. There was no stopping like I did the last fall. I thrust my hands over my head like this to protect myself if I should hit something with my head. Closed my eyes because I think I was a little scared about what might come. And I slid 30 to 40 feet down the grassy slope, and as I was sliding, I was accelerating. Brian is watching me slide, and helpless, he felt very unnerved and shaken to the core as well. I slid 30, 40 feet to the cliff's edge, then I flew off the edge. Brian watched me go off, and he waited patiently, nervously, but waited until all the sounds stopped. My body was impacting rocks, and also the rocks were being dislodged.
And how far did you fall?
350 to 400 feet, a long ways. And then the 162 feet marks the highest place of Niagara Falls, if that gives you any perspective. It's a phenomenal distance to fall and survive. I went off the cliff and I thought, so this is how I'm going to die. How am I going to die? Will I break my neck? Will I break my back and suffer? Will I not know what happened? But I thought, this is how I'm going to die. After I went off the cliff, for 3 seconds I was in a free fall. I remember dramatically the timing of it. And I smashed violently into a rock. Again, I didn't see it, but I impacted it and survived. And I thought, that wasn't bad, that wasn't bad, that wasn't bad. And then I went immediately into another free fall of about the same duration, and I hit that even more violently, and I responded, oh, that wasn't good, that wasn't good, that wasn't good. And I thought immediately, my ribs are broken and my lung is punctured. That's just the thought that came to my mind. I continued falling, but I don't have any recollection until I woke up, looked up, and I'm at the bottom of a 10-foot cliff that I had fallen off of, and came directly straight down on my bottom, head up, feet in a knee bent position, the perfect position to be in for internal bleeding, which I had. I had to take assessment of my condition and went from toe to head, seeing what injuries I might have. And I saw a rock to my right, and I was situated on a 2-foot by 2-foot ledge. And below me was 1,000 to 1,400 feet of very, very steep terrain that I would never have been able to control my descent down. So before we get into the injuries that you suffered, talk a little bit about what Brian did and how you guys got, the miracle of how you got rescued. Okay, I sat there for about 30 minutes on that 2 by 2 foot ledge. Brian, in the meantime, couldn't descend safely down to get me because I had fallen down the cliff, and he knew it. So he had to side hill about 1/4 mile in the direction of our tent. Then he descended down. He almost fell multiple times as well, but not down a cliff, but it would have been dangerous. He descended to an area he thought would be sufficient low enough to where he could side hill toward my direction. And in doing that, he saw the debris field of all rocks and things that had gone down. He looked down and didn't see me, so he assumed that I would be uphill. He went up the snow trail of the debris and found my backpack that had ripped off my body in the second impact, or after. And he came up to me. I heard him calling me, and I answered him as best I could. It was hard for me to speak because of my lung injury. So Brian came up to me and said, he looked at my knee and fixed it up. It was a very serious leg injury. And he said, hey, I found your pack. He said, but unfortunately the pack, the upper pack that detaches is gone and the phone is missing. And that was our only means of communicating with the Coast Guard.
So right now you're on the side of a hill on a very small ledge. You've had a very, very serious fall, and I want you next time to talk about the extent of your injuries. Your friend Brian, risking his own life, came around to help you, and initially it looks like you don't have any means of contacting what would be required, and that is a Coast Guard pickup. I'm going to get you back I'm going to get you back at least one more time to continue with the story. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me, you want to hear the end of this. And again, keep in mind that Doug is currently flying for Alaska Airlines as a captain, And his story is one of courage and pretty serious circumstances. But also I'd have you keep in mind, this was not a walk in the park for them. They had crampons, they had walking sticks, they knew what they were doing, they'd done it before, and this is sometimes what happens in Alaska. So ladies and gentlemen, tune in next time. Doug, thanks again for being on the program.
Great to be
Thanks
here.
for coming back. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, fly safe.
Well, from last week, definitely some changes here. Sea ice edge now farther south of St. Matthew Island, and quite an increase in the ice conditions there over Kuskokwim Bay, again from what they were late last week. And shade more ice in Bristol Bay now. Cook Inlet, not much change at all, and none forecast for Cook Inlet for the next 5 days. Out to the west, again, the diminishing winds over the next 4 or 5 days. So in that time period, looking for the ice edge to advance southwestward 15 to 25 nautical miles through Saturday afternoon. And for the marine forecasts here, gales on the south coast out of the southeast, small craft advisories to the north where they're more easterly, southeast winds 20 to 30 knots here over the southern central inside waters, northwest 15 for Lynn Canal with 3-foot seas. And for Wednesday, south 30 knots here for the south coast, and then east-southeasterly gales up on the north side. Brisk wind advisories, or small craft advisories for Clarence Strait with those east winds at 25, east 20 for Stevens Passage. Lynn Canal staying light out of the north at 15. But notice the seas out here considerably higher on Wednesday than tomorrow, ranging from 20 to 21 feet, and even up to 17 feet to the north. And for the Prince William Sound zone, northeast 15, light winds also for Cook Inlet, 15-knot winds all the way down across Shelikof Strait with seas 2 to 3 feet in those areas. Northeasterly 20 knots here, Kodiak Island up in across the Barren Islands, turning easterly at 20 for the North Gulf Coast. Seas generally through the areas about 7 feet. And then for Wednesday, increasing the winds again with that frontal system weakening and coming back to the west, so not looking for gales on Wednesday, just northeast 30 knots here along Kodiak Island, the Barrens, easterlies at 30 knots for the North Gulf Coast with seas right around 13 or 14 feet. Light winds, Prince William Sound, northeast, barely a breeze there at 10 knots. Same thing for northern Cook Inlet. South of the Foreland Zone, 20-knot winds extend across Kamishak Bay and pick up to about 25 there for Shelikof Strait. Out west, light variable winds in store for Bristol Bay tomorrow. Otherwise, from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, 20-knot northerlies and a little bit lighter here off to the west. Very light winds up along the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Then for Wednesday, small craft advisories here southwest of Kodiak Island, and from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, they'll be northwest at about 20. Northeast 15, give or take there for Bristol Bay, north 15 for the Alaska Peninsula. And out west, west to northwest, 20 knots there for the western Aleutians, northwest at 20 for the central areas of 6 to 7 foot seas, and light winds for the Fox Islands, west-northwest at 10 with just 4 foot seas. And moving ahead to Wednesday, in come the gales, actually probably late tomorrow night and advance eastward here, looking at south 40 knots for the afternoon Wednesday for Adak and Atka with 9 to 13 foot seas. And then we've got 16 foot seas with the gales out to the west there. And for the eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands, northwest at 20, just 4 to 6 foot seas. And for the areas south of Nunivak Island, northeast 15. Light winds also north of the island there. Still a brisk wind advisory out for St. Lawrence Island. Diminishing here as you head south in the Bering Sea to northeast at 15 for the Pribilofs, and still heavy freezing spray off the ice edge. For the Wednesday outlook, light variable wind conditions really laying down pretty good there for the Pribilofs, and northeast 20 for the northern Bering Sea, north 15 here along the southwest coast, and about 20 knots for St. Lawrence Island. For the Arctic coast, gales on the east side, brisk wind advisories on the western and central coastline, and then south here to Wales, but from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, Look for northeasterlies at 15. And then the winds here to the south lighten up, become more northwesterly, but we've got brisk wind advisories continuing from the western Arctic coast all the way eastward to demarcation point. And for tonight, again, weakening trough spreads some scattered showers up into the northern panhandle, even less scattered shower activity here, North Gulf Coast into south central Alaska, maybe some flurries a little farther to the north. Brisk wind advisories continue up along the entire Arctic coast through tonight and then on the east side through tomorrow. Otherwise, not much change over the interior or the Bering Sea. Still kind of snowy around the Pribilofs, isolated snow showers, eastern Aleutians, and shade more moisture slips into the western areas. And then for tomorrow, scattered snow showers out over much of the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, just a chance of. Same thing here, Bristol Bay up into the southwest interior toward Cook Inlet. Chance of rain and snow showers here again for the North Gulf Coast. Some of that moisture might work into the Wrangell Mountains to a certain extent. It looks like we'll see a few more clouds, or at least maybe thicker clouds, a little lower ceilings, and possible isolated flurries, Koyukuk Valley, western upper Yukon areas down to maybe toward Galena, and a little more extensive snow shower possibilities there for the western Alaska range, especially on the east side. And here's the next system spreading rain and increasing the wind in the afternoon into the southern panhandle, and that front weakens, actually stays off the coast here with a chance of rain along the coast, barely reaching the North Gulf Coast, but looks wet for Kodiak Island, and partly to mostly cloudy in areas of the interior with just a risk of some isolated snow showers or flurries. A little lighter on the winds for the Arctic coast, and the big storm out here to the west with the gale force winds. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.